Hi there, I'm Regina Sellers, and I'm the creator of Pro Bow the Hand. This little video is on how to make the Terri Bow. And in this video, I promise it's going to be one video, and I am going to fluff the Terri Bow out. This is just my little introduction. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to flip around. The whole video is going to be shot from over my shoulder. I'm going to be really zooming in. I want you to have the best view possible. So just hang with me just a moment. So let's begin. I have my Pro Bow set up. We are going to be working on row D. If you have our newer board, and actually we've been selling these for 2 years, so the newer boards have a new row on it, and so it'll go all the way out to row F. So if you have a board that goes out to row F, we will be working on row D. For everyone who has our first board and your board ends in E, then you will be working on row C. Our bow recipe is fingers 1 through 6 right, 1 through 6 left, and of course your base finger, and that is how you set your Pro Bow up for the Terri Bow. I want you to clearly see that. You're either going to be working on row C or D for this particular Terri Bow, depending on which board you have. Okay? Now, you'll see that I'm going to move my camera just a tad. You'll see that I have my 2 spool holders set up right here. And this is just me. Most of the time whenever I'm making a Terri Bow, I put my first 2 ribbon 1 inch. And then my next 4, there's 6 ribbon in a Terri Bow. So my first 2 are 1 inch, and then my next 4 are 2 inch ribbon. So I have them all set up, and so this will be my first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So I have all my ribbons set up, and we're ready to begin. Let me pull this back over, my camera over just a tad. I want to make sure you see this very clearly. So I'm going to pull over my first ribbon. I'm going to use my board as my measurement. Whenever I start, the first thing you're going to do is make your tail. You're going to start with the tail, and I go out to about row C. Okay. Now I always give myself, a little extra, or maybe just what I need. You can always trim your tails later if you would like. So anyway, that's how I start. I start on about row C. You could even go out to row D, just depending on how you would like to do it. But the important thing here is I use my board as my measurement. So I have my letters on this side and my letters on this side, so that I can make sure my tails, everything is perfectly measured out for me. So that's how I start. So I'm going to measure out to I'm just a tad past C, I suppose. And then here's my base finger. I'm going to pinch. I'm going to come from behind with my piece of wire. I'm using 26 gauge wire. I use pre-cut. Let me see. I want to make sure that you see that. You see my piece of wire? See, I'm looking over here on my Mevo. I'm connected to my Mevo. I'm watching what I'm doing, so I can control the shot and make sure that you're seeing what I want to make sure that you see. So here's my 26 gauge wire, and you can see that I'm eyeballing it, and I'm holding it right in the middle. I'm going to come from behind. I'm going to put that right in the middle, and I'm going to come to myself 1, 2 times. 2 times around. Okay? And now I'm going to take my ribbon and go to my base finger. I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom. You never want to do that. You want to make sure you work from the center part of your base finger. So I just hold it there with my thumb. And now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to go to the left. You never want to go around to the right. If you do, it just makes everything pull around like that. You don't want that. You're gonna take your piece of wire, go to the left, and go to the and pull up to the top of your base finger before you start wrapping your wire around. You want to wrap your wire on itself if you can. You want to do this very neatly, and it just helps to hold it in place. Leave yourself a little tip. There's a little tip, and because you want to be able to get that off very quickly at the end. My other piece of wire, I'm going to go around the nail just once, and I'm going to stick this piece of wire underneath my board to get it out of my way for now. And this is how we should look at this point, and I'm going to zoom in so that you can get a really good look at that. So that is how this should look, and this is how we begin. Okay? Now, let me zoom back out. Let me tilt this a little bit. I want to make sure that you have a really good view of what I'm doing here. Okay. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I always hold my hand in this position because I'm just sliding the ribbon through my hands. This is just a smooth, easy glide, and you'll never have cramped hands, never have hurting hands, because it's just a smooth little easy glide. You can hold this with your thumb if you would like to. I'm going to hold my fingers like this and see, and I use my pointer finger. See? Drop it over. That's all I did. That's all I had to do. Drop it over with your pointer finger. I'm going to get this out of my way. And then finger here, bottom edge of ribbon to my finger. There's my pinch. There's my twist. Bottoms up. Bring the bottom edge of the ribbon up. I'm going to hold it with my thumb. See? I'm going to do my fingers. Smooth, little easy glide. And just drop it over. See, I don't have to go all the way over. I don't have to do all that stuff. It's just so much easier. It's just very simple, very easy. Finger like this. Use your finger, your pointer finger as your guide, and you can just drop it over, and that's it. Now, we're going to come back. Finger here. See, I come in almost sideways. I don't come up holding my ribbon in this position. I come in sideways. Let me zoom in. I want to make sure you see this very closely. Bottom edge of ribbon to finger. Come in sideways. I'm always keeping the bottom edge of my ribbon in sight because I'm going to now pinch and bring that bottom edge up. There's my twist. We all know in bow making, it's all about the twist, and there it is, and that's all there was to it. Now, at this point, we're going to use a second piece of wire. I call this my little helping hand. See, the hardest part of bow making now is picking up one piece of wire at a time. So, here's my second piece of wire. What you're going to do, and I'm going to make sure we have a really good zoom in. I want this really, because I want you to see this very, very carefully. See, holding my thumb there. I'm holding my little pinch. I'm going to take my second piece of wire. I call this my little helping hand, and I'm going between fingers 1, right and left. Just drop it on your board. You can just drop it down. See, you just drop it. And what you wanted to do, well, I wasn't too careful there. Drop it down, and I always come around the right side. It's just flopping around here on my board, as you can, I think you can clearly see. And I'm just going to pick this up and pull it around the right side. See how I'm pulling that around the right side? And I'm going to make both ends. Let me push this up because I want you to see. I want to make sure I'm in the shot. I'm watching. Get my hand out the way. This in the shot just a little bit more. See how I'm pulling these two pieces of wire and I'm getting these even. I'm just getting these even at the end because I don't want to run out of wire on one side or the other at the end. So I'm getting both of these pieces of wire the same length, and I'm just pulling them. See how I'm pulling them? I want this really tight. I have pulled my little helping hand around the right side, and let me get this back in the shot again. Make sure to get my arm out the way. Let me turn it because I want you to clearly see this. And all you do is you do one little turn. That's all. One little turn and your piece of wire up and down. You just kind of get this out of your way. You can kind of leave this because we're going to keep using this wire. Every time we go back and forth, we're going to use this little piece of wire. Now, I had my first tail was on C, so now I can pull my piece of ribbon over here to row C, and I'm going to fold it in half from the fold at row C. I'm going to give it a little dovetail, and that is my first piece of ribbon on for the Terri Bow, and that is all there is to it. That's all there is to making a Terri Bow. That's as hard as it gets. That is how you put the ribbon on, and this is all we're going to do now is continue stacking our 6 ribbon in this manner, and we're just going to stack our 6 ribbon, and that's all there is to it. It's just that easy. A Terri Bow is incredibly easy to make with just magnificent results. So I want you to see clearly how this looks, and this is how it's going to look on every ribbon that we put in. Okay? So let's continue. I'm going to come with my next ribbon. Well, this was dovetailed already. I've used this ribbon before. So I'm going to go just a tad past C. I'm going to go almost, see I've dovetailed it, and I'm going to probably put my little dovetail to D. Okay? Now, I'm going to pick my ribbon up. On the first 2 ribbon that I'm using, you can't tell which side of the ribbon that I'm using because both of them are shears. I can barely tell myself which side. This is the right side of the ribbon here. What you want to do is you always want to pick your ribbon up, put it to the board, and have the right side of your ribbon facing upward. Because this is the top of your bow, and this is the bottom of your bow. And like I said, I can barely tell myself, but this is the right side of the ribbon, so I'm going to pick it up. Look, I'm measuring it. I'm right here. Just my little dovetail is to D. There's my pinch. I'm going to pinch. I'm going to put my piece of ribbon here with my little helping hand. And I'm going to tighten this. I'm just going to hold that. Wire up, wire down. That's holding that in place. Okay? Finger like this. Let's get that look. Let's make sure we're neat. Go around, finger here. See how I'm coming in? Almost sideways. There's my pinch. There's my twist. Bottoms up. It's a half twist. That's all it is. I can hold my thumb there if you'd like. See what I'm doing? There's using my fingers, my guide. You want as few hand movements as possible. Here, bottom edge. There's the pinch. There's the twist. I'm going to use my little helping hand. I'm going to hold this in place. The important thing now, because we're using 6 different ribbon, is to keep our stack. Every time we add another ribbon, we want to make sure that we're coming straight out. You see, I didn't put a ribbon up here. I put a ribbon down there. I didn't move. It's important that you keep your little stack of ribbon one right on top of each other. Let me cut this. See, I'm going to go all the way to D. I'm using my board as my measurement. I don't have to go get a tape measure or a ruler or anything. I'm using my board. There's my dovetail. Get this ribbon out of the way for now. Put this over here. We want to stay really neat. And that's how it should look. That's how it should look for now. Let me come in even closer. I want you to really see this. This is how it should look. And I want you to see from this way. You see how our stack is going to start. This is just going to start stacking out. That's what's going to make you a beautiful bow. Okay? Our next ribbon. Now I'm going to my 2-inch ribbon. And here you're going to be able to clearly see what is the right and the wrong side of my ribbon. So here's the right side, and you can see that this is the wrong side. I'm going to come over here to row D. I'm going to fold and dovetail my ribbon. That's my pretty little dovetail. I'm going to just a tad past D, and you can see right side of ribbon, I'm picking it up because this is the top of my bow. Let's see, let me swing out here. Make sure you see this well. Right side of ribbon, I'm going to pick it up. There's my nice little pinch. Every step that you do neatly helps. So just make sure you make a pretty little pinch. Don't fold your ribbon over like that. Your loops won't open pretty at the end. So if you make a pretty little pinch, a pretty little gather, it's really kind of like a gather. Your bow will open prettier at the end. You'll have prettier loops. So I'm going to go past D, a little past D. Okay. Let me adjust where this is and make sure. A little past D. Well, I'm all the way out to E. That'll be good. My little dovetail's at E. Okay. Let's put this here. And all I'm doing, once again, using my helping hand wire, one time around. Put this over here. Get it out of your way for now. If you want to be really neat, finger like this. Let me pull it out a little bit. See, here's my guide. And look, using your pointer finger, there's my pinch. Let me pull in. Let me pull in so you can see this. This is my first 2-inch ribbon. Look how thick this ribbon is. It's embroidered. So this is very thick ribbon. Who would have thought that you could use this many ribbon and such a thick ribbon? But you can see how incredibly easy this is. The hand and the fingers are holding everything for you. So here we go. Here's our pretty little pinch. There's the twist, a pretty little tight little gathered twist. I'm going to pull some around using my pointer finger as my guide and drop it over. Here's, see, finger here, bottom edge. There's my pretty little gather. I'm making a little gather. And there's my twist. It's the bottoms up movement. I brought the bottom edge up. Okay, because we want the right side of our ribbon facing the top. Here we go with our little helping hand. Tightly, one time around. Let's see. I'm going to move these out of my way for now. And then I was at, let's see, what row was I at? I think I dovetailed right to E. Like I said, I'm never skimpy at this point. I can always come back if I want to after I finish my project. And if I want to trim the tails, I can. So I always make sure I give myself enough there. Okay. That's the third ribbon. Now let's go to the fourth. And look what we have here. Look, another burlap type ribbon, all very thick ribbon. All four of my ribbon are quite thick. But you're going to see in the end just how beautifully this is going to come out and how easy this is. Look, this is one ribbon even glued to the top of another. And it's just going to be, this is incredibly easy because everything is being held for you. Let's dovetail. Get these out of the way. Now I'm going to go all the way out to just a tad past the E, and you can see I'm picking up the right side of my ribbon and I'm turning it upward. You can clearly see this is the wrong side on this one because this is the bottom of our bow. Let's see, get my measurement. Just a little past E. Here's my nice pretty little gather, holding it right exactly where my twist was before. Keeping my stack all nice and neat, tightly, one time around. See how I do this? I use my finger as my guide, drop it down. Finger here. Let me come in closely so you can see that. Finger here, bottom edge of ribbon to my finger. Look how I'm almost sideways. Pretty little gather. Just gather that up very nicely. Bring the let me try to move my hand here. Let me angle this. I want you to see this. I think my hand was kind of in the way, the back of my hand. So finger here, bottom edge of ribbon to my finger. Try to keep the back of my hand out of your way. See how I'm making just a pretty little gather? It's just a pretty little gather. And then bottoms up is a half twist is all it is. I'm going to use my thumb. Hold that in place. Put your thumb there. Always using my finger like this as my guide. Pull some ribbon. Drop it over. I'm going to come back. Finger here. Bottom edge of ribbon to my finger. Look at that. I'm coming in sideways. I always keep the bottom edge of my ribbon in view. There's my pretty little gather. There's my twist. Little half twist. All this is just the same thing over and over and over. Nothing to it. The Terri Bow is the easiest thing in the world to make with just magnificent results. I just can't say enough about the Terri Bow. So I think I'm a little past the E. I'm going to dovetail over here. Like I said, you can always come back and trim a little off at the end if you'd like and get this out of your way. Now, we have 2 more ribbon to add, and that's all there is to it. So, dovetail. Look, another big thick ribbon. I'm going to go all the way. I'm just a little past the E now. Just a little past. Here, I'm going to pinch. I'm going to make myself a pretty little gather. Using my helping hand. Do this as tightly as you can one time around. Using my finger as my guide. We're going to drop it over. Get this out of our way. Finger here. Bottom edge of ribbon to my finger. There's my pretty little gather. There's my twist, bringing the bottom edge up. Hold it with your thumb. Finger as your guide, drop it over. Few hand movements as possible. Here's my finger, bringing the bottom edge to it. It's just the same movement over, over, and over. Incredibly, incredibly easy to do. There's my little helping hand. See, I'm going to push this in. Right now, I'm going to stop. I'm going to push this in. I want this to stay really tight. Okay? There's my little helping hand. And one time around. That's all. I'm going to dovetail. I'm going to hold this up. I want you to see. I'm going to dovetail just a little past. I'm almost to the F. Get this out of the way. And see how that looks. Let me control my shot here with my Mevo. I want you to see this very clearly. See how that looks? Let's see. Let me move this up. I'm going to make sure you're in. See the shot. Okay. See how you can clearly see the bottom of the finger. You can still clearly see the top of the finger. All of my stacks are one right on top of the other. That is what you want to do, and this is how it looks from this view. And this is exactly how this should look at this point. And we have 1 ribbon to add, and that's all there is to it. Let's see. Another burlap. This is going to be a beautiful summer Terri Bow. So here we are. Dovetail. I'm going to go all the way to the F. There's my pretty little gather. Gather up that burlap. Look, I'm using my fingers to make it, because it's stiff. We all know that burlap ribbon is stiff, but you can see how I've made a pretty little gather. Put it right where it belongs using my helping hand. I'm going to hold this in place. This over here. come to my finger. There's my gather, and there's my twist. I just brought the edge of the ribbon up. Hold with my thumb, pull some over, come back. There's my pinch, or my gather, pretty little gather. Bring the bottom edge of your ribbon up. Tie it off with your little helping hand. How incredibly easy is this? And there is your Terri Bow. Let's go out to the F. I'm going to dovetail. And our Terri Bow's made. We have made our Terri Bow. Let me zoom in. Now, I kind of did this on purpose. Okay, you see how this is totally straight right here, but I kind of just, I kind of moved just in just a tad right there. That's perfectly fine. You're never going to get every one of them, or you can, or if I went just a tad slower. But I purposely did that because I wanted you to see. Okay? That's just a little zigzag right there, and that is perfectly fine. That will make absolutely no difference at all. A lady was making a Terri Bow one day, and she sent me pictures, and she thought she was really messing up, and not at all. Okay? That is all perfectly fine. This is how it should look at this point. This is how it looks here. See? What is the important thing is, let me make sure we're in our shot. The important thing is that you keep everything stacked. That's the most important point. Okay? Now, I'm going to go back and get my first wire. Don't just pull it straight up. If you just pull it straight up, you can knot your wire. So it's just a little zig off. Okay? Now, when we put our wire on, we went to the left and around. Well, you want to take it back off that way. If you do it like this and you come around this way, you've now wrapped your wire around your base dowel. And you don't want to do that. You won't be able to get your bow off your bow maker. So you went on that way, so you want to come off this way. Okay? So there you are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this. You see how I'm going to push this in? I'm pushing that in because I want this to tighten up as much as I can. I'm going to take my finger. I'll tell you what, let me zoom in. I want you to see this. See this carefully. Okay, now I'm holding, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm hold this wire. And I'm really pushing. I'm pushing in, and I'm going to push in. I'm going to hold with the back of my hand. Okay, now with my other finger, I'm going to go and pop that wire off the nail. That's why you only do it once. You want to be able to get that piece of wire off very quickly at the end. I'm going to bring this piece of wire up and pull tightly. You want to get this tight, okay? And you can get this tight because, like I said, that's why this was named the hand. No wire cutting into your hands. You can pull tightly. You can push in. Everything that's being held in place. Okay, so there's our first piece of wire. I now can take my little helping hand, little piece of wire, and just kind of ring it around. You want to make sure these are all kind of wound together, and that's it. And your Terri Bow, let's pick this up, and your Terri Bow is made. Perfect Terri Bow, incredibly easy. And that's all there is to it. And this is how it should look at this point. And now we're going to go to the fluff box. And we're going to fluff our Terri Bow. So let's get this out of the way. Drop that down. Here's our fluff box. Now, let's zoom in because I want you to see this. See the opening? The opening of my fluff box. There it is. See, that's my fingernail. You can hear it clicking just underneath that little bitty opening. All I want to do is slide my wire into that little opening. Just slide it in. And I'm going to pull. I want to pull and go over to my nail. And look, all of these don't reach. That doesn't matter, just as long as one does. And I'm going to go around the nail, and just once. That's all it's needed, because it's going to hold it in place while we now fluff our Terri Bow. And you see how the bow is just held up? It's just held up perfectly. And I'm going to be able to use 2 hands to now fluff my Terri Bow. See how that looks? That's how that should look for now. I always start fluffing a Terri Bow from the bottom, because what I want to do is just make X's. What I'm going to, okay, so what I'm going to do is here, let me go all the way out. Here is my tail and a loop. See my loop? I'm going to pull that loop around here. So I'm going to leave a tail. Let me push this up here. Here's a tail, here's a loop. So now I'm going to leave a tail, and I'm going to pull a loop over here. And I have created my X. See how that looks? That's how it should look. See my tail? There it is. So, loop, loop, tail, tail. So now that's all we have to do now to fluff a Terri Bow. You just keep positioning your ribbon. And let's see, I'm going to pull this. Just pull them apart. Now, as you can look, I'm using both hands. That's why the fluff box is incredibly important. I can use 2 hands. I don't know that I could do this if I wasn't using the fluff box. This is wired ribbon, and what I want to do is just ever so slightly. You see how I'm running my finger down that? Very slightly. This is wired ribbon, and I want to give it just a little tad of a curl. Okay? And you see now I can slide it around if I want to. And so there's a loop. So I'm going to put this loop over here using both hands. See how I can pull wired ribbon. I'm pulling this ribbon where I want it to be. See, put my fingers in, make a pretty little loop. Just adjust this, just a tad of a little curl to it. Just a slight little, see? And let's see what we have now. This is how it looks. You can see it starting to form. See how our Terri Bow is starting to form? Incredibly easy. Let's go to our next one. Okay, I have 2 tails here, so I'm going to make sure I put a loop here. Okay, see how now I have 2 tails? I have 2 tails right here and 2 loops here. So I'm going to make sure that I put a loop over these tails. And I'm going to put a tail over here between the loops. Okay, so I had 2 tails. You can clearly see that. 2 tails. The next one, I'm going to make sure that I put a loop here. See? And I had 2 loops here. So I'm going to make sure that I put a tail here. Look, see, I just a little glide. It's going to make that just so pretty. Who thought burlap ribbon? All these burlap ribbons were so easy to work with. Let's swing this around. Let's see. So I have a loop. I want to make sure my loop is going to come across. So my loop is going to be here. Here's 2 loops. This tail is going to go between those. But because this is anchored down, oh, let me get my arm out the shot. Okay, because then I'm going to squat down now here. I'm going to do like this so you can see. I'm pulling, pull, pull. I can pull on this. I can make this ribbon go where I want it to because it is anchored down to the fluff box. I'm forming this bow, opening and forming this Terri Bow. As I go, I can do this because it's anchored to the fluff box. And that's how it looks now. Just a few more ribbon to go. Get my arm out the way. Okay, next one. Let's see. I'm going to pull this over here. This is I call this my feature ribbon. This is, in every Terri Bow that I make, I always have a ribbon that I like absolutely the best. And as you can see, this is it. Very obvious. You can see that all of the ribbon that has been used in this whole Terri Bow has been to really feature this one. Everything was picked. This was my first ribbon that I picked for this bow, and you can see that everything just flows beautifully with this. So I did a wreath using this ribbon, and because I wanted this to be seen so much, because it's the ribbon that I love the best in this Terri Bow, I used it twice. So you can play around like that. This is just a basic Terri Bow. You can get really fancy and just do anything that you would like. Okay, let's turn this around and see how, okay, where's my loop? So there's my loop. Here's the tail over here. I'm going to loop across and make sure I have a tail here. Let's see how I'm pulling. I think you can clearly see. Let me do this. Make sure you're seeing that clearly. See how I'm pulling? And then just putting my fingers through my loops and opening, and that's all there is to it. Super, super easy. And there. See, I want this to kind of stand up a little bit. I want it to have a little curl to it and have it stand up. Okay? So loop, loop, tail, tail. Oh, and I have to say my word that I say in all my videos. I'm foo-fooing. And I have a terrible habit that I just never seem to know when to stop foo-fooing. Okay, so I'm foo-fooing my ribbon right now. I need to move on. Okay, let me hold it up. It's kind of heavy to pick this up. Look at this. Look how beautiful. Look how it's just come together. Okay? Look at that. Magnificent. 2 more to go. Okay, our little center ones. These are just easy as they can be. Look, I'm just going to reach in. I'm just going to, let's see. I want to make sure you see this good. I'm going to kind of go out. Put it here. See, I'm just going to, let's see. You kind of decide, I have 2 tails over here, so I think I want a loop to go over there. And so I'm going to pull this way. Because I have, you see how I had 2 tails right here? Well, then I'm going to decide to put a loop over here. Okay, so there's my little loop and a little tail that way. And let's see, so this is a tail, here's a tail here, and I'm going to pull this loop, and I'm going to pull on it. See? Pull. I'm going to pull, because this is where I want my ribbon to go. And I see how I can make them now stand up. See, these are almost standing up. Look how I'm forming this and giving dimension to this bow. And I can do this because I'm using 2 hands and it's anchored down. Now, let's see. I want this little tail to kind of come over here and open this. So you have to kind of just play with it. Make your little tails and your little loops go where you want them to go. And I want this to kind of curl a little bit. So you see I'm going to up. See what it did? All I did was run my fingers very, very gently along that edge and see how I made it curl. So now I have a pretty little curl standing up. Here's this. Here's a loop. I want this to go over here, my little tail over here, and my little loop here. And that is how you make a Terri Bow. Perfect. So incredibly easy. All the rage. And here I am foo-fooing. Let's okay. perfect Terri Bow for your summer wreath. How pretty, how easy was that? Let me hold it up. Look, I'm going to spin it around. Oh, I have a little thread in here. Oh my goodness, I can't be having that. Let me cut that out. Okay. See the dimension. There's depth. There's depth and dimension to this Terri Bow because we stacked. We had a deep stack. Our stack was about this deep. You can see. You can clearly see from the side. See how deep our bow is? It has dimension to it. Has depth, dimension, and it is just perfect. I'm going to go all the way around. I want you to see it. See, I can sit here. I must have put my hand on that, on a pretty little loop there. And of course, after you put this either on your package or in your wreath or whatever you're doing with your Terri Bow, you go foo-foo with it a little bit more, you know. So, look at that. See, I want to pick that up and move that. Oh, stop, Regina, I foo-foo too much. See, so there it is. And then here we go. Look at this. How perfect is that? Perfect, easy Terri Bow. I want you to get a good shot. There you go. So there it is. That is how incredibly easy it is to make a Terri Bow. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this, that you have enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I shall see you again, I hope. Thank you so much, and please excuse my squeaky voice. Bye for now. Enjoy Terri Bows. Bye-bye.